Welcome to your favorite channel, where we dive into the most shocking and mysterious crimes. Today we unravel a story that's as chilling as it is tragic. Richard Engelbert, a successful real estate agent from Littleton, Colorado, seemed to have it all. A thriving career, a beautiful home, and a loving family. Known for his charming demeanor and sleek black car with a cheeky license plate, Richard was a well-respected figure in his community. But behind closed doors, he was hiding a dark secret. For the past 2 years, Richard had been secretly involved in a troubling and illicit affair with his stepson, Harrison. But this was a secret only between him and his stepson. Little did he know his secret life was about to come out in the open, that too in the worst possible way, soon after he was found dead in his apartment. Who was the perpetrator, and what were the secrets that led to this tragic end? Join us as we delve into the disturbing truth behind Richard Engelbert's final days and the secrets that led to his shocking murder. It was a sunny day on June 27, 2014. At around 3 p.m., Wendy Engelbert came home early from her job as a school principal. She was looking forward to a relaxing evening, maybe watching some Netflix and catching up on her favorite book. But as she walked into their house on Bleak Street in Littleton, Colorado, everything seemed normal at first. Wendy put her keys on the kitchen counter and called out for her husband, Richard. When she didn't get a response, she felt a bit uneasy and decided to check the basement. Richard often spent time there, either working on real estate files or watching the History Channel. As Wendy went downstairs, she noticed that the basement door was slightly ajar, which was quite unusual. She called out for Richard again, this time louder, but still got no answer. When she reached the bottom of the stairs, she was met with a horrific sight. Richard's lifeless body lay sprawled on the floor, surrounded by signs of a violent struggle. Blood stained the carpet and furniture, and Richard's face was bruised and battered. Shockingly, a luxury men's belt was wrapped tightly around his neck, clearly used to strangle him. Wendy was horrified. She screamed in terror and rushed to her husband, shaking him and desperately trying to wake him up. But it was too late. In shock and disbelief, Wendy grabbed her cell phone and called 911. Her hands shook as she spoke to the operator, her voice breaking with emotion. "My husband is dead. I think he's been murdered," she cried, struggling to breathe. The operator tried to keep her calm and told her to stay on the line until the police arrived, and so began the quest for justice. The officers arrived at the scene quickly, led by Detective James Cattle. Detective Cattle was known for his thorough approach and was ready to tackle this dark case. The Engelbert home, located on Quiet Oak Street, was soon surrounded by police cars and wrapped in yellow crime scene tape. Detective Cattle and his team made their way into the basement, where they were met with a horrifying scene. Richard Engelbert's body lay on the floor with a men's luxury belt tightly wrapped around his neck. Blood stains were evident on the carpet and nearby furniture, indicating a violent struggle. Detective Cattle, who was a man in his late 40s with a keen eye and calm demeanor, took in the scene with a steely resolve. The police began their investigation by photographing the area from different angles to document every detail. The belt used in the murder was carefully bagged as evidence, and detectives searched for fingerprints and other clues that might reveal the killer. Then forensic experts arrived to process the scene. They used luminol to detect hidden blood traces and collected samples for DNA analysis. The area was meticulously examined for hair fibers and other potential evidence. Despite the brutality of the murder, the officers stayed focused on gathering all the information they could. The police canvassed the neighborhood, speaking with residents including Luby Johnson, who had come to Wendy's aid. Luby described hearing Wendy's screams and finding her on the front steps, distraught and incoherent. Other neighbors mentioned seeing Richard earlier in the day, but nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The police also reviewed Richard's recent phone and email records, uncovering several suspicious messages and calls. That's when the truth came to the surface. Richard had been meeting with various men for illicit activities. This revelation added a new layer to the investigation, hinting at possible motives related to Richard's hidden life. As the day turned into evening, the police continued their search for answers. They cleared the crime scene and Detective Cattle and his team began reviewing the evidence. The community of Littleton watched anxiously, hoping for justice for Richard Engelbert. The investigation was far from over, and the search for the person responsible was just beginning. Wendy Engelbert, who was 47 at the time, was a well-regarded school principal in Littleton. Known for her intelligence and strong character, she had worked for the school district for over 15 years and was very involved in community activities. Her colleagues saw her as dedicated and authoritative, always aiming for excellence. Little did anyone even imagine she would become a prime suspect in a murder, that too of her own husband. On June 28, 2014, the day after Richard's murder, Wendy was brought in for questioning by Detective James Cattle. He wanted to understand her actions and emotions better. Wendy appeared drained and upset, but answered the questions calmly. She described her day at work and the horrifying moment she found Richard's body at home. Despite her composed manner, Wendy's anger and confusion about Richard's secret life were clear. She expressed shock and frustration over discovering Richard's affairs, stating that she had no clue he was involved with other men. The revelation of Richard's affairs made the interrogation tense. Detective Cattle probed deeper into Wendy's feelings about her husband's betrayal. Upon that, Wendy admitted that their relationship had been strong but acknowledged recent challenges. According to her, she was unaware of Richard's secret life. She even explained that a recent ski injury had made it difficult for her to read people's actions, which might be why she missed signs of Richard's double life. Wendy's alibi was solid. She had spent the entire day at school, attending meetings and preparing for the next school year. Colleagues and security footage confirmed her presence at work during the murder. However, her connection to Richard made her a person of interest. Detective Cattle also considered Wendy's possible motives. Her reputation and career were important to her, and Richard's affair threatened both. Despite this, Wendy firmly denied any involvement in the murder. She was cooperative throughout the questioning, providing access to her phone and emails. The police thoroughly searched the Engelbert home for any evidence linking Wendy to the crime, but found nothing incriminating. This reinforced her alibi and statements. Nevertheless, detectives remained cautious. They knew that intense emotions could drive even the most rational people to desperate acts. But after several hours of questioning, Wendy was released but continued to be under close scrutiny as the investigation progressed. The murder of Richard Engelbert was proving to be a complex case, with many secrets and motives slowly coming to light. But the case then shifted to the second suspect. Harrison Engelbert, who was Richard's 21-year-old stepson, quickly became a key suspect in the investigation. Harrison at the time was a college student and part-time bartender, but he had a troubled past. He had spent time in rehab and 12-step programs as a teenager, but was now trying to turn his life around. He was pursuing a degree in psychology at a local community college. Harrison was brought in for questioning a day after Richard's murder. Detective James Cattle, aware of the delicate nature of Harrison's relationship with Richard, approached the interrogation with care. Harrison appeared nervous but was cooperative, eager to explain his side of the story that shook the authorities. Harrison revealed that he had been in a secret sexual relationship with Richard for the past 2 years. But the fact that Harrison had recently ended the relationship after discovering that Richard was cheating on him with numerous other men was far more disturbing. According to him, Richard used homes he showed as a real estate agent as secret meeting spots. It was clear during the interrogation that Harrison was very upset. He felt deeply betrayed by Richard not only because of the affair, but also due to the lies and manipulation. Despite his feelings, Harrison insisted he had no intention of harming Richard. He claimed he was bartending the night of the murder, and several witnesses confirmed his alibi. Detective Cattle investigated Harrison's possible motives. Harrison's history of emotional struggles and substance abuse raised some concerns. However, his recent efforts to stay sober and focus on his studies seemed to show a different side of him. Harrison was open about his challenges and his desire to move forward, distancing himself from the toxic relationship with Richard. The police also checked Harrison's electronic devices and social media accounts for any evidence related to the crime. They found messages between Harrison and Richard that showed tension, but nothing that directly linked him to the murder. Although Harrison's DNA was found at the crime scene, it was expected since he lived in the house. After several hours of questioning, Harrison was released but remained a significant figure in the investigation. The police continued to monitor his activities and interactions, looking for any signs of inconsistencies or new evidence. But nothing really came up. Alexa Hernandez, 30, became the third suspect in the murder investigation. Why? Because her connection to Richard Engelbert was personal and intense. You see, Alexa had a history with Richard that made her a person of interest. She had once caught Richard in a compromising situation with her husband, which led to the end of her marriage. Known for her fiery temper, Alexa had multiple confrontations with Richard since that incident. And that was the reason why she was brought in for questioning. But who was she? Well, Alexa worked as a waitress at a popular local diner and was known for her outspoken and strong-willed nature. She walked into the interrogation room with a defiant look, ready to defend herself. Detective Cattle began by asking about her relationship with Richard. Alexa admitted she despised him for destroying her marriage and causing her significant emotional pain. She described discovering her husband and Richard together as the worst day of her life. Alexa had confronted Richard several times afterward, demanding answers and an apology, but he had always dismissed her. When asked about her whereabouts on the day of Richard's murder, Alexa said she was working a double shift at Denny's. She even provided the names of her co-workers who would confirm her alibi. Detective Cattle checked with the diner, and Alexa's manager, along with several co-workers, confirmed her presence at work all day. Despite Alexa's solid alibi, Detective Cattle explored her possible motives further. Her intense anger toward Richard was clear, but Alexa insisted she had moved on and was focused on rebuilding her life. She was taking night classes at a local community college, aiming to become a social worker and help others with similar struggles. But the cops weren't convinced. The police searched Alexa's home and car but found nothing suspicious. Her phone records and social media showed no contact with Richard in the weeks before the murder. Throughout her questioning, Alexa remained calm and direct, showing no signs of guilt or deception. And just like the other two suspects, she too was released after several hours. While the police continued to monitor all three suspects, they found no direct link to the crime. This left them with more questions than answers. Was there another suspect they hadn't yet identified? Or had they overlooked a crucial piece of evidence? What was the missing puzzle piece that could crack the case wide open? On July 3, 2014, the investigation into Richard Engelbert's murder took a dramatic turn. Detective James Cattle received a call from the forensic lab with some startling news. They had uncovered crucial new evidence while re-examining items from the crime scene. Among Richard's belongings, the forensic team discovered a hidden camera cleverly disguised as a smoke detector. This camera had been secretly recording activities in the basement for several weeks. Detective Cattle and his team wasted no time in reviewing the footage. What they found was shocking. The video revealed a heated argument between Richard and his stepson, Harrison Engelbert, on the day of the murder. The argument quickly turned physical. Harrison, in a fit of rage, grabbed a luxury belt from a nearby chair and used it to strangle Richard. The footage clearly showed Harrison's involvement in the murder. The brutality of the acts and the apparent motive were undeniable. Stunned by this new evidence, Detective Cattle called Harrison in for more questioning. Harrison arrived at the station, unaware that the video evidence was now in the police's hands. During the interrogation, when confronted with the footage, Harrison's calm demeanor shifted to panic. Overwhelmed and desperate, he confessed to the crime. Harrison explained that he felt trapped in his relationship with Richard. Manipulated by both his stepfather and his mother, Wendy, he had been pushed to his breaking point. The constant deceit and Richard's infidelity had driven him to kill in a moment of uncontrollable rage. With Harrison's confession and the incriminating video, the police had a clear picture of what had happened. On July 4, 2014, just before noon, Detective Cattle and his team arrested Harrison for Richard's murder. The arrest took place at Harrison's apartment, where he was handcuffed and led away with little emotion. The trial of Harrison Engelbert began on August 15, 2014 in Littleton, Colorado. The courtroom was packed with family, friends, and local media, all eager to learn more about the case. Did you know this trial drew significant attention from both local and national news outlets? Leading the prosecution was District Attorney Laura Mitchell. Known for her strong courtroom presence, Mitchell argued that Harrison's murder of Richard Engelbert was premeditated and fueled by deep-seated anger and betrayal. She presented key evidence, the hidden camera footage and Harrison's confession. Mitchell stressed that despite the troubled relationship between Harrison and Richard, Harrison was ultimately responsible for his stepfather's death. On the defense side, Z. Barnes, a 40-year-old attorney known for handling high-profile cases, represented Harrison. Barnes argued that Harrison's actions stemmed from intense emotional turmoil and manipulation by both Richard and his mother, Wendy. The defense claimed that Harrison's unstable mental state and the immense pressure he faced made it difficult for him to control his actions. Barnes sought a verdict of guilty but hoped for a lesser charge, aiming for a more lenient sentence given the circumstances. Throughout the trial, Richard's family, including Wendy Engelbert and other relatives, sat quietly in the courtroom. They were visibly distressed by the unfolding details. The revelations about Richard's double life and the turmoil it caused were shocking. Their emotional reactions were evident as they listened to the grim details of the affair and the murder. On September 5, 2014, the jury reached a verdict. Harrison Engelbert was found guilty of second-degree murder. The jury decided that although Harrison acted in a fit of rage, the killing was not premeditated. This verdict led to mixed reactions. Some felt it was fair, considering the emotional and psychological factors involved, while others thought it too lenient given the brutality of the crime. Harrison was sentenced to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole. This sentence brought a sense of closure to the case, but the pain of Richard's family was far from over. As for Harrison, serving his prison sentence at the Colorado Department of Corrections, his life behind bars was marked by personal struggles. He reportedly kept to himself and focused on education and counseling, reflecting on his past decisions and seeking help for his emotional issues. In the months following the trial, Littleton began to heal, but the case served as a sad reminder of the hidden struggles that can lie behind seemingly perfect lives. As life in Littleton slowly returned to normal, the Engelbert family's tragedy remained a tragic chapter in the town's history. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and share the video with others who might find it interesting. To stay updated with our in-depth investigations into the most intriguing crimes, be sure to subscribe to our channel. See you in our next video.